Hello, Doug Fink, and anyone else who might be watching. This is Ben from PowerWF. I'm recording this on September 10th, 2010. If you're watching this about a week later than that, go get PowerWF 2.3 right now because it is awesome. Let's jump right in and talk about some of the new features in 2.3. The most visible, most obvious new feature or improvement is in our PowerShell editor. We had an editor before, but this one's much improved. There's an embedded shell, there's a script pane, embedded contextual help, and result view, history view, variables. Let's just jump in and start looking at this stuff. Okay, so notice first of all that we have drop downs. We have syntax highlighting. We have all the things you'd expect to see from a good editor, both on command lines and parameters and everything else that might be in context at the time. That's good. Let's go ahead and take some script and hit play. Notice that our output from this script goes to our embedded shell. You can interact both in the embedded shell via the command line, and you can interact with the shell via the script view. You probably notice if you're keeping a keen eye on the right side that this result property grid is changing. The result grid, both the result data grid and the result property grid, let's take a look at that, will change based on the results of the last executed command, whether that command is executed from the console or executed from hitting play or executed from the command history. What you see in the result grid, what you see in the property grid are based on the results of the last executed command. In a previous example, you might have seen from these result grids, we can hold down the control key and select columns, for example, and you'll see that as we're doing this, the script is changing. We're automatically adding these select object for you to select just those columns that you're looking at here. If we hit play right now, you'll see that we have just those selected columns. Now let's delete that modification and show you the same thing from the property grid. So here we are again. We're looking at let's switch back to console. We've got a console mode here. We got the embedded console here. We got the property grid here. Let's drill down into this into these results. And we'll control click on something that looks interesting deep down here, like module name for the modules. Control click. Again, you see we've added the script automatically. We can hit play and look at that data, including an exception from one of them, an x-axis denied. But that's okay because we'll get all the rest. And again, we look at the data grid and look at those names, or look at those here in the property grid, which has been refreshed. Let's keep things simple and just look at the original script. As you're typing or as you're selecting things, you notice that the help pane changes, including examples. And as before, if you see an example you like, you can hit the green button, and we'll insert it here into your script view. If you do that within the workflow view, of course, we will bring this window up, and I'll show you that in a couple minutes. But that's pretty handy. So we'll resolve aliases as a part of that. So if you've got this is get process, but if this was a PS instead, we resolve that just as well. So here's get service. You see get service there in the help pane, and if this was PS and it's been resolved, there's get process there in the help pane. All right, so we have a script here. Get process, select object first 5. We like the results, and we hit insert. Now we're back in the workflow view. Here's our get process, select first 5. Again, we have contextual help just like we did before. Let's say I want to modify this PowerShell script. So let's come over here at the toolbar. I'm going to drop in a sort object right in the middle. So we'll have get process, sort object, select object, and on the sort, I'll go ahead and put in CPU as the property that we're going to sort on. To go back to the script view, instead of hitting the PowerShell button, we'll hit the little PowerShell button on the activity. And any activity you see in the workflow that has a blue button, you can click on that blue button, and we'll take you back into the editor for whatever activity you're looking at. So this is a real two-way editing. You see now we have the sort object, the CPU that we didn't have before. Let's say we add in the dash descending switch parameter, for example, and let's replace. If we come back and look at our sort object now, you'll see that we have dash descending true here in the property set. What this means is that you can edit PowerShell script either as a workflow, dragging and dropping, changing parameters, or as a script. So you see, if we delete the sort object here from the script and replace our block, then we now have get process selected without the sort. So that's pretty cool right there. Two-way editing, real true two-way editing. Edit in the workflow or edit in the PowerShell script. They're interchangeable. Another thing we can do here is that we can treat this entire script as a single script block by hitting the checkbox here. And you see that when we replace our code, we won't have a pipeline anymore with individual activities. We have a single activity. So here, by doing this, we can do more orchestration of PowerShell. So you can have larger chunks of PowerShell scripts that you don't necessarily need to debug each individual commandlet and how it's being run, but you do want to orchestrate, like shove it into a parallel activity or a repeater, or remotely run that PowerShell script, what have you. Any kind of orchestration you do, you would collapse down your script into a single script block. Again, we can come back in and edit that script, or uncheck the checkbox, and we'll turn it back into individual commandlets. Functionally, they are the same thing, but it's a little easier to manipulate a script block and orchestrate that than individual activities. So another new improvement in this version is we have annotation, both through the property grid. So here's an annotation in the property grid. You see that it's resized everything. In fact, we can do multi-line even. Multi-line, right? And when you go back into script mode, that annotation appears as a double pound comment, so pound comment. We can edit this from here, edit this here, replace our script, and you see that line went into our annotation. Two-way editing does apply to annotation. More annotation. So here's an annotation for the select object. You'll see that it gets the annotation. That's pretty handy. Another new feature is that every PowerShell activity has a new property called assign to. So we'll assign the results of this to PS. You notice it looks like PowerShell script $PS equals and then whatever's inside here. If we go back to the script mode, you'll see exactly that $PS equals, and that is functional. So if we were to hit play here in the workflow view of the world, another big improvement here you'll see is that compile time for workflows is much faster. We'll do some side-by-side comparison tests in a later screencast, but for now, just trust me, it is very fast. Now we've shown the output from these commandlets running, but there is also now a PS variable available to us. See, there's a PS. And if we went to the PS variables pane, we'd see the PS. It's collapsed on environments. There's our PS, and we could drill down into it and see the results, or what's in that PS variable. So that's very cool. Again, we have contextual help for that in the workflow mode, just as we did before. And again, if you change something like assign to here in the workflow view, and you go back to script mode, that change is reflected in the script. Make a change in the script, go back to workflow, that change is reflected. It's a real, true, two-way editing. Workflow, PowerShell, workflow, PowerShell. Perfect. So that is just one aspect of 2.3, one of the new things. So we hope you download PowerWF 2.3. We hope you beat on this, and give us your feedback. Tell us if you like where we're going, and how we're getting there, and how this app works, and what we can do to make you happy and solve your automation problems. Thanks a lot. This is Ben. I'll talk to you in another screencast later.